You were listening to chartingwealth.com for Thursday, the 12th of July, 2018. We see stocks down for the day, gold down big time, 1.08%. We see bonds up. Let's jump first into SPY. That's the Standard & Poor 500. So far on the weekly chart, even with today's pullback of 0.73%, we see a green open box up candle, which again is typically connotates, as far as our Heikin-Ashi candlesticks go, strong up movement. We do see, however, on the weekly chart, the derivative oscillator losing energy. Price percent oscillator skimming along. It was bounding off that red signal line earlier in the week, but it has weakened. It's sort of paralleling, skimming right along, almost laminated over it right now, even though the candle looks decent. We go to our 2-day chart. What do we see? Well, the 2-day chart actually finished up with a nice up candle. And again, this is Heikin-Ashi candlesticks. If you don't understand them, please make sure to listen to our training. About 77,000 people have on Heikin-Ashi candlesticks. You can find it at chartingwealth.com. We're going into our third moving up candlesticks on the 2-day charts. That means 6 days of up movement. Quite strong, actually, has crossed over on the 2-day chart. So we can dispense with, for the time being, our down movement on that as far as our 2-day crossover goes. We've got a new crossover going up. Not as strong as we'd like it to be typically on up movements. Why? Because you don't have the derivative oscillator flipping over with the price percent oscillator. We like to see all that happen together, but nonetheless, it has occurred. So now we have the 2-day and the weekly moving in the same direction. Derivative oscillator losing downward momentum, of course. Price percent oscillator crossing over. We go to our 4-hour chart. What do we see? Well, we see on the 4-hour chart the down movement of the day, down in the morning and the afternoon. The price percent oscillator tilting down, derivative oscillator losing upward momentum. And we'll continue to keep an eye on things. Of course, what we'd like to happen now that the 2-day chart has crossed over is this pullback to cross over the red signal line and then move back over going up, which would be our jumping in point. Now, I would encourage you to experiment and see what you see with the red switching over to green candles. Just chart that and see how that works, and if it works on this go-round of movement. Now, that's where we are on the S&P 500. Let's go to the Qs down, and that's the NASDAQ 100, of course. The tech stock's down a little over 0.5% for the day. It has a green up candle, not as strong an up movement as we saw in the S&P 500, but again, the weekly is still moving up. We see the derivative oscillator losing upward momentum. Price percent oscillator is pretty much flat. We look at the 2-day chart, and we see the third candle of up movement, again, in strengthening, increasing, moving up. The derivative oscillator is losing downward momentum. The price percent oscillator is moving to a crossing going up. And of course, it hasn't happened yet, so we don't have the same thing we had happen with the S&P 500. And we see the 4-hour chart. We see the down movement in the morning with a little bit of a pullback on that, or a move up, I guess, in the afternoon. So not as much down movement as we'd seen on that other chart. Derivative oscillator losing upward momentum. Like we said, price percent oscillator pretty much flat, maybe moving down a little bit. So we'll continue to watch and see if something sets up for us on the Qs for a potential up trade. Again, the S&P 500 is setting up nicely for that. We now go to TLT, which is 20-year bonds, and of course we see it was up for the day, 0.39%, and we continue to see just nice building. Remember, we had that weekly vertical crossover back on the 25th of May, an up week after that, and then 2 sideways weeks, and we're going into our 4th week of up movement, price movement above the weekly trend line. The derivative oscillator gaining momentum, price percent oscillator gaining momentum. We go to the 2-day chart. What do we see? Well, we see a doji on this last 2-day movement, which of course means indecision tending down. What we're actually seeing sort of a sideways slide there. Price percent oscillator losing upward momentum, and the price percent oscillator is actually heading up. Derivative oscillator losing upward momentum. And as we look at the 4-hour chart, we see that it crossed over going down back in the afternoon on Monday of this week, headed down on Tuesday, and then of course on Wednesday up. So we will continue to keep our eye on things, and of course looking for a 4-hour crossover going up, which would, of course, give us another jumping in point if you had not gone ahead and stayed in. Remember, price movement is above the 2-day and the weekly, which is always a good sign. That's where we are on TLT. Lastly, we go to gold. Gold was down for the day the most of anything, 1.08%. What we see as far as the week goes is we have a green up candle, but again, price movement is tagging right there on, not pushing through the weekly trend line. Derivative oscillators gaining downward momentum. Price percent oscillator is continuing to head down on the weekly, which is a good sign for continued movement in that direction. We look at the 2-day chart. We can see for the 2-day candle ending the 5th and then the 9th of July, we see up movement, but again, not strong up movement, more sort of a sideways slide that then started moving down again for the 2-day candle ending on the 11th of July. Price movement is below that weekly trend line still, but did break the 2-day trend line. Derivative oscillators losing downward momentum. However, our main indicator, the price percent oscillator, is heading down. We go from there to 4-hour chart. What do we see on gold? We see strong down movement in the morning and the afternoon. Looks like we're getting close to a crossover going down. So those of you waiting for what we've been talking about in gold, that is a resume down movement and a possibility to jump in, do check your charts out in the morning. You might have a chance for shorting gold again. So keep your eye on the prize. Folks, that's where we are as we finish up the markets on Wednesday and go into Thursday, the 12th of July. We so appreciate you being with us. If you have questions, problems, concerns, let us hear from you. CW@chartingwealth.com. God bless. All the best from the whole team here at Charting Wealth World Headquarters.